you guys. I'm sorry I was there. So, had dinner, and I have this. Well, hello everyone. I apologize for being late. I swear. I was just going to put a couple things on the shelf because I kind of have to get some stuff organized. And next thing I know, I look and my alarm is going off to tell me that things are starting in 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh crap. There was a couple things. Yes, I still had to do before then. Oh well, but you guys are patient. Thank you. Sorry if it was loud there for a second. It blew my ear out. I had something turned up. I think the audio fairies are playing around with me these days. So let's check in with everybody. Linda's here and Tamara. Oh, it's Adrian's doing better. Is that? Oh. And Larry, well, I haven't seen Larry, but I'm seeing Tamara and Linda talking back and forth. Aldo, I could blame it on Aldo. He's got a broken tooth, poor guy, and all kinds of stuff. So that'll be something we'll take care of in a little bit. But Bob took him to the vet this morning, and yeah, that's what he's on the upper end of his weight. He's not overweight. He's just right kissing the edge. He's doing fine. He's very healthy in other words, except for the dang broken tooth. Yeah. And so there's Larry. And Lupe's here too. And Madonna. Yeah, they had a few good days. Still no hearing the right side, but the pain is gone. Yay! Lupe's here. Larry's here. Tamara's here. Linda's here. Madonna's here. I overate. Oh no. Yeah. Sorry. And there's Julia. Hi, Julia. Nice to have you here. Gosh. Oh my goodness. So that 2 minutes sometimes. And Fatima's here. Yay. I was watching, who were you on earlier that I was watching? I don't know. I was watching some other thing. I was avoiding cleaning up in here in the studio. So tomorrow afternoon at 5, there is a reporter for the Key Peninsula News coming here to interview me about photography for kind of as a precursor adjunct to the art walk. The Key Peninsula Art Walk that Two Waters puts on and stuff. Which, by the way, Larry and Angie, let me know if you guys want an application. It's a great little art fair. It's only on a Wednesday afternoon, August 2nd. Goes from 4 to 8. It's $30 for a booth for non-Two Waters members. And it's a really nice little art community. And we have a great time. So, since you guys are close by... oh, thanks. Yeah, another new pair of new glasses I got. These are Iris Apfel design from Zenny. So we'll see. They're kind of, my headphones are getting in on them, but oh well. Let's see. Anything else I'm checking in on? So today 13 craft festivals left, guys. Oh my God. Julia, I think I'm going to have you hold my hand through that whole thing. I had not applied in so long that Zapplication had deactivated my account. That's really bad. And then when I went in to look in what's in the gallery for me to post to send to people, I was like, ooh, that's old. Those are old things. Yeah. So, yep. Anyway, yay. Okay. Anyway, tonight we're gonna kick off story time, and we're gonna it's gonna start that my little different things. I've got 2 books. One of them is a regular picture book, and it's a fiction. The story of a landscaper and his son growing an artist. It's not. it's not a biography, but it's kind of a fun book. And then we're going to start on Some Writer, the story of E.B. White by Melissa Sweet. It is a chapter picture book, and she has done such an amazing job with the collage and the way it's put together that I just have to share it with you. It's going to take a few nights to get through it. And so I'll probably do 1 or 2 chapters in it, depending on how they're each time. And we'll get through them, though. Ah, yay. Yes. Oh, yeah, Julia. You know, your work is amazing, girl. All of our work is amazing. Everybody, we should be very proud of ourselves for what we do. I put out the little, if you saw in the little opening thing, I made a little invite for the, and I posted it in a community post for the Tuesday afternoon artist reception next week. And I'm getting a little further in getting the presentation done. Like I said, I've got the end done, but I don't have the beginning and the middle done. They kind of are being fairly elusive right now. It's going to get there. Had a watercolor class today. That was fun. And so did some more things on that. Learned about glazing and washing and all that stuff. But now it's time to get on to some stories. Yes. Of all years. Everyone is so creative in this. Really, this is a really creative group. You guys, I hang out with a lot of artists out here on the Key Peninsula. There's a lot of people that are really, really very talented, and you guys go right up there with them. Right up there. So, this first book, let's see if I have even, I do. Oh, yay. See, I just thought, my notes here to the side. I didn't even clean up the table at all. Let's get this down. There we go. Make it look a little bit better. There, it's called Growing an Artist. It's by John Para. And let me tell you a little bit about him. John Para is the 3-time recipient of the Pura Belpré Award, illustration honor, and 2-time recipient of the Society for Children's Book Writers Award. Hang on, I forgot to show something there. There we go. Golden Kite Award. He has illustrated many award-winning and critically acclaimed books for young readers, including Frida Kahlo and her Animalitos, written by Monica Brown, and a New York Times Best Illustrated book called Waiting for Biblioburro, also written by Monica Brown, which received the Christopher Award. Growing an Artist marks John Para's author-illustrator debut. So he did both. And he also did The Power of Her Pen, which is a really wonderful book. So, and Hay Wall. But this is called Growing an Artist, the story of a landscaper and his son. I love when the end papers are done this way. Just checking my sound. Sounds good. And why is this doing this? There. Yes, that should be better. Should be better sound now. There. Whew. When they make the part of the end papers of the book part of the story. Growing an Artist. Are you ready, mijo? Papi asks. He smiles as I carry an armful of tools and supplies. Have a good day, Mommy calls. Soon we rumble off into the cool morning air. Today is a big day. Today is the first time I get to help my papi in his work. He is a landscape contractor. There we go. Our first stop is to pick up, whoops, hang on. Let me just do that. There, move that there. And then I can unlock that and move me over. Hey, move. Oh, well. Okay. Our first stop is to pick up Javier. He has worked for my dad since I was small. Before that, he lived in Mexico working on avocado farms. Javier asks if I remember the Spanish he taught me. ¿Cómo te llamas? Javier asks. Me llamo Juanito, I reply. ¿Listo para trabajar? He says. Sí, listo, I approve. He nods approvingly. You are ready for work. As we continue down the road, we sing loudly to the oldies radio station. At Mrs. Tarby's house, Javier shows me how to mow perfect lines in the grass, just like I've seen at baseball stadiums. Poppy demonstrates how to shape and trim bushes. When I look up, I see a face in the window next door. It's Alex from homeroom. He looks away and pretends not to see me. My heart sinks. We always say hi in school. I put my head down, feeling awkward, and continue to pick up leaves. Juanito! Poppy's soft call interrupts my thoughts of Alex. He pushes back the branches of a bougainvillea bush. I'm surprised to see a nest of baby birds. Chirping away, I grab my sketchbook and quickly draw. Finally, with our electric blower, we clean all the sidewalks and drives. Sun shines through the clouds of dust. I love this combination of almost like this collage and everything and the drawings behind. At lunchtime, I unwrap Mommy's famous burrito, chorizo, avocado, and egg. I'm still thinking of Alex. When I ask, Papi, do you like your work? He pauses, then says, You know, mijo, being your own boss is the best thing in the world. You have to work hard, and sometimes you are treated like you are invisible. But when you do something you love and get to be creative, you feel proud. He notices my sketchbook and says, Hey, you are getting so good. I smile. The next stop is the nursery. Javier finds a store utility cart to drive to load up plants. There are bushes, trees, vines, and many flowers to choose from. I again pull out my sketchbook and begin to draw. With our purchases, we head to Mr. Sardisco's house. He is an old family friend who has more than 200 rose bushes in his garden. When Papi shows him the special Busy Bee rose bush just for him, Mr. Sardisco is thrilled. No one knows more about plants than your dad, he exclaims. By now, our truck is full of brush and waste. We need to head to the city dump, Papi announced. Fantastic, I say. I love that place. And soon we pull up to the registration booth and we head up the winding road. The dump will turn these branches and trimmings into mulch for planting. Papi unhitches the truck's clamps, lowers the tarp, and climbs back inside. I hear the hydraulics working. Vroom, vroom. The back bed lifts up. We inch forward, and soon all the debris comes tumbling out. All three of us look at each other and shout, Hilo, hijole. I don't know if I got that right, Lupe. The final stop of the day is a house that looks much different from the ones we saw earlier. We ring the doorbell. Mr. and Mrs. Carroll are happy to see my dad. Together they discuss how to transform the overgrown yard into a special place. I look around and start to see its potential too. That evening, I have an idea. May I help with the landscape design? Sí, Papi agrees. That would be fantastic. Soon, Papi and I are sitting at his work table, drawing the lawn, flower beds, walkways, and trees. I add colors to brighten the layout, and hours pass and I become lost in the work. I forget to think about Alex. This is beautiful, mijo, Papi says. The next day, he comes home with a big smile. The girls love the design. We start breaking ground next week, he says. You have a gift, Mommy says. A few weeks later, Papi, Javier, and I work to plant the last shrubs. The plans I helped to draw are about to be real. I grab my sketchbook and turn the pages. I see the yards my dad has made beautiful. I see Javier hard at work. I remember Alex's face in the window. I turn to a blank page and begin to sketch. I will use my art to tell the stories of hard-working, passionate people who make the world more beautiful. I will tell their stories. I will tell my story. In the author's note, he says, when I was growing up, this story is the little landscaper in the story is the story of my childhood. When I was growing up, I worked for my father, who ran his own landscape and construction company in Southern California. My father's parents had come from Chihuahua, Mexico, to El Paso, Texas, where my dad was born. When he was 9 years old, his family moved to California's hot Central Valley. There he labored throughout his youth, ages 9 to about 17, alongside his siblings as a migrant farm worker. As he got older, he began working at a nursery in Bakersfield, caring for plants. After serving in the United States Army, he settled in Santa Barbara to begin learning the landscape business. It didn't take him long to receive his contractor's license. Over time, his business grew, and within a few years, he became president of the regional Tri-County chapter of the California Landscaper Contractors Association. Often, my father's employees were migrants from Mexico who rented rooms in our house and became part of our extended family. My parents encouraged them to take English classes, and many did. My father sponsored his laborers for citizenship. Eventually, a number of them went on to buy homes, begin families, and start successful businesses of their own. I began accompanying my father to work when I was 7, at first helping with small tasks. By the time I was 13, it was my part-time job. As a young artist, I loved to work on my father's landscape blueprints. For 12 years, I learned from my father and even considered studying landscape architecture and design when I got older. Ultimately, I found my path studying illustration and fine art at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Landscape work was not easy. It was a physically demanding job done outdoors in all kinds of weather. I had to balance school, friends, life, art, and helping my dad. But working with him was rewarding. It was a creative outlet that nurtured my imagination, and my dad's eye for design and beauty inspired me as a young artist. It provided me with a strong work ethic and taught me responsibility and business. I'm grateful for those days spent with my dad and proud that I can contribute to my family's business. What a great book. Growing an Artist. Yay. I love that one. Let's see. Santa Barbara is a great place to learn that trade. Yes. My nephew kind of went into landscape that way. He apprenticed with a landscaper for years because he couldn't really manage to get the landscape architecture design or program at WSU was just not something he made it into. So he apprenticed for years and then got worked alongside a really well-known landscaping company, did some really big builds in Portland, and now many years later, he has a really successful business all through out around Portland and the whole area of Oregon. He's very, very well respected in this field, so it's kind of cool to see when somebody grows up into that. Where's Bonnie? Hi, Bonnie. Yay! Welcome. Somebody. Oh, Bonnie, I'm so glad you came through. Came out and instead of lurking and back and stopped in and said hi. Good to have you here. Anyway, so this next book, as I said, we're going to start, and it's going to be a in part, and it is because it's a very different kind of picture book. It's a biography of E.B. White. It's done by Melissa Sweet, and we have read some other things that Melissa Sweet did. And she does that wonderful collage, and almost it's like a junk journal on steroids with direction. I mean, yes, junk journals oftentimes do have a direction, but hers purpose and the whole thing about it is just so spectacular. And to tell his story in this way is really, really wonderful. So I got it on Kindle Cloud, on Libby, and I have it on my Kindle Cloud Reader so you can see it better. And I'm going to pull over here. There. So you're going to be able to see this a little better. Let me put myself back up. Hopefully in the corner will be pretty good for that. Yeah. Oh, maybe down a little bit there. There. Okay. So this is called Some Writer, the story of E.B. White. Maybe if I do. Why is that? Hang on, I guess I have to unlock this thing. Maybe it's locked. Okay. I want it to move over there. There we go. And I will change it to wide. Oh, it's a squircle. Hang on, just give me half a second here to custom, and then I can make it the size I want it to be. There we go. There we go. There, you can still see me read, but then it's not in the way of the book, because this book is so awesome. Yes, it is. All right, Some Writer, the story of E.B. White by Melissa Sweet, Caldecott Honor winner. So you can see all the little pieces that she's done. She did stitching for this. She did collage. She did fabric. Everything. It's amazing. Get through here. Yeah. And this is the first opening page. It says, all beginnings are wonderful. You see down here in the, I don't know if you can see my little, there it is, right there. All beginnings are wonderful. Oh, I love that collage. Stupid iPad is way. Golf course. Yes. And it has a really cool family tree, the White family tree. And Elwyn Brooks White. There he is. 1, 2, third one down on the right-hand side. Quite the family. 1899. The White family from left to right. Lillian, Samuel, Albert, Jesse, Elwyn, Stanley, Marion, and Clara. So there's quite an age difference in the family, you'll see. This starts out, and this is where I got my title for tonight's was Essential Goodness. This was a quote from E.B. White. I believed then, as I do now, in the goodness of the published word. It seemed to contain an essential goodness, like the smell of leaf mold. E.B. White. And then she took that and used it on a typewriter, like a typewriter on a leaf, and then has letters following it off. I'll probably go a little slow through this so that you can see the mixed media pages. Elwin and the family dog Beppo at his home in Mount Vernon, New York. Look at the dog, Beppo. I love how she took the picture and expanded the family home around the picture in the sketch. E.B. White used a manual typewriter. Oops, just a sec. I love this. How a manual typewriter works. Insert a sheet of paper, 1, into the roller. 2, press a type key such as E, 3, and a lever. 4, swing a type hammer. 5, which strikes an inked ribbon. 6, makes a printed impression on the letter E into the paper. So she has all those things numbered on the typewriter. There once was a boy from New York. All's right with the world department. I fell in love with the sound of an early typewriter and have been stuck with it ever since. Elwin Brooks White became a writer while he was still wearing knickers. He was 7 or 8 years old when he looked at a sheet of paper square in the eyes and thought, "This is where I belong. This is it." He was born on July 11th, 1899, and later chose 7 and 11 as his lucky numbers. That same year in downtown New York, not far from his home, a reservoir was being filled to make way for a new library with a children's room where Ian, as he was called, would later take out books. Ian was 5 years old when his brother Stan, whom the family called Bun, because he could wiggle his nose like a bunny, taught him to read by sounding out words from the New York Times. If N came across a word he didn't know, his father made him look it up in the Webster's Dictionary. At dinner, his father, who loved words, recited limericks. All 6 children would try to finish the last line. Ian's mother, Jessie, was quiet and kind. She loved her garden and raising broods of baby chicks. Each year at Christmas, she placed her dream farm, a tiny wooden farm, under the Christmas tree. Knickers, I know. Oh, it says, N, note the fountain pen in his lapel pocket, and his mother in the picture. He has a fountain pen in his lapel pocket there. Ah. When he entered first grade, N discovered school began with an assembly. Every day after the students recited the Pledge of Allegiance and sang a song, the principal called a different student to the platform to read aloud. He went in alphabetical order, and for years, N sat in terror as the names got closer to W. The Tans of Syme. Elwin White? The day he heard Elwin White, N made his way to the stage and began reading a poem from Longfellow. It had the line, "Footprints on the sands of time," but Elwin's words came out, "The Tans of Syme." Other kids started laughing, and the moment on stage became even worse when N had imagined it would be. He could not finish. He vowed to never get up on stage again. On his way home, his dog Mac met him at the usual corner. In the quiet of the barn, N tended his chicks, his lizards, and his pigeons. As a child, I was frightened but not unhappy. My parents were loving and kind. We were a large family, and we were a small kingdom unto ourselves. Nobody ever came to dinner. We lived in a large house in a leafy suburb, and where there were backyards and stables and grape arbors. I lacked for nothing except confidence. I suffered nothing except the routine terrors of childhood: fear of the dark, fear of the future, fear of the return to school after a summer on the lake in Maine, fear of making an appearance on a platform, fear that I was unknowing about things I should know about. I was, as a child, allergic to pollens and dusts, and still am. It may be, as some critics suggest, that it helps to have an unhappy childhood. If so, I have no knowledge of it. I love this. Elwyn's father, Samuel White, worked at a piano company on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. One of the fringe benefits of being the son of a piano man, Elwyn wrote later, was that our parlor at 101 Summit Avenue was well supplied with musical instruments. All 6 kids played instruments. We were practically a ready-made band. All we lacked was talent. We had violins, cellos, mandolins, guitars, banjos, and drums, and there was always a lot of music filling the air in our home. None of it good. We sang, composed, harmonized, drummed in an attempt to raise the general tone of the commotion. I love her, the way she puts together these collages. N was much younger than his siblings, so his father had more time to spend with him. "Oh, the joy of my little boy. We have lots of times together," Samuel White wrote to Albert. And for N's 12th birthday, he gave him an optimistic note. "Elwyn, my dear boy, all hail with joy and gladness we salute you on your natal day. May each recurring anniversary bring you earth's best gifts and heaven's choicest blessing. Think today on your mercies. You have been born in the greatest and best land on the face of the globe under the best government known to men. Be thankful then that you are an American. Moreover, you are the youngest child of a large family and have profited by the companionship of older brothers and sisters. This is no small matter, for you are wiser by reason of their experiences. You haven't had to learn wisdom, you have absorbed it. You are the object of the affectionate solicitude of your mother and father. When you are fretted by the small things of life, remember that on this your birthday, you heard a voice telling you to look up and out on the great things of life, and beholding them say, 'Surely they are all mine.' In conclusion, I congratulate you again, and with my warmest felicitation, I wish you great joy. I wish you all happiness, and I wish it for you with all my heart. Father." Okay. There's his allergies. Achoo! One Sunday afternoon, when N was about 5 years old and his family piled into a carriage for a ride, N started to sneeze. His eyes became red and itchy. His parents wondered if it was the horses, but they discovered N had hay fever and was allergic to pollen. The doctors prescribed dousing his head in cold water every morning. No, thank you. Later that year, Samuel White went to visit Elwyn's older brothers, Al and Stan, who were staying with friends at a camp on the Belgrade Lakes in Maine. Would the crisp, clear, cool air and the cool lakes up north help end hay fever? His father wondered. Mr. White made plans to take the whole family and their dog to Snug Harbor in Belgrade Lakes. Chapter 2. I'll read one more chapter. Once more to the lake. Life is always a rich and steady time when you are waiting for something to happen or to hatch. I love how all these quotes that she has put in and these things are all, and that E.B. White kept all these letters and things from, and they all are in the history of him and kept, it's just so amazing. And then she'll do things like this. This is like, it's part collage, like the graph paper or the notebook paper cut out with things painted on it and then painted over with watercolor. All kinds of stuff. They're going once more to the lake. Getting to Maine was as much of an adventure as summering there. The family packed for 1 month, and it took a train overnight from New York City. Mrs. White slept fully dressed, so she would be ready when they arrived at Belgrade Lakes early the next morning. From there, they took a horse and wagon 10 miles to Snug Harbor. Mr. White had rented 2 small cabins at the edge of the lake. We Whites were city people, Anne later wrote. Everything about Belgrade was a new experience. The big freshwater lake, the pines and spruces and birches, the pastures with its sweet fern and juniper, the farmhouses where we took our meals, the rough camp with its sparsely furnished bedrooms, the boating, the swimming, and the company of other campers along the shore. The White family motoring in Jessie with N in the middle. That's the name of it. During his summer without end, as Elwyn later described it, Stan taught N how to paddle a canoe and use a jackknife. The brothers studied tortoises, turtles, tadpoles, and toads. In later years, they brought their homemade skiff, Jessie, named after Mrs. White, who couldn't swim and hated the water. No matter what the weather, the whole family crowded into the skiff and motored to town like barn swallows in their nest. At Bean's store, Mr. White bought a case of Moxie soda, assuring his family that the new drink, Coca-Cola, would never be as popular as Moxie. N began keeping a journal. He thought the word journal sounded more writerly than diary. He wrote in his journal, every day for the next 20 years. It was just a cheap notebook that was always by his bed. Every night before he turned in, he would write in the book. He wrote about things he had done, things he had seen, and thoughts he had had. Sometimes he drew a picture. He always ended by asking himself a question so he would have something to think about while he was falling asleep. There's an illustration of Antanel, that kind of. I wonder what I'm going to be when I grow up. The Moxie bottle cap. That's a picture from Trumpet of the Swan, 1970. Another good book. For N's 11th birthday, his father gave him a green wood and canvas Old Town canoe. Now, the best part of the summer was not just being out of school, but waking early before the rest of the family and sneaking out onto the lake in his own canoe. He would set out along the edge of the glassy lake in the shadows of the pines, paddling quietly so as not to disturb the stillness of the cathedral, as he called the motionless water. When he was 11, he had phrasing like that, words like that. Oh, my goodness. Another one of her collages. She made it look like a cathedral in the trees. Oh, that's so pretty. There was a lake, and at the water's edge a granite rock upholstered in lichen. This was his pew, and the sermon went on forever. Reader's Digest, A Boy I Knew, 1940. One summer, the Whites invited Elwyn's friend Freddie Schuler to join them in Maine. 15-year-old Elwyn made Freddie a brochure to prepare him for the most beautiful states in the Union and one of the most beautiful of lakes in Maine, and wanted his friend to love Snug Harbor as much as he did. Ends front cover, copy layout and design and publication by Elwyn B. White. Look at that! Maine is one of the most beautiful states in the Union, and Belgrade is one of the most beautiful of the lakes of Maine. This wonderful lake is 5 miles wide and about 10 miles long, and many coves, points, and island. It is one... And then he goes, this pamphlet was compiled by Elwyn B. White. It is respectively dedicated to Mr. Frederick Schuler for his personal use. Can you imagine? How cool is that? Elwyn learned cursive at about age 7. I love this. My mother had perfect cursive. A series of lakes which are connected with each other by little streams. One of these streams is several miles long and deep enough so that it affords an opportunity for a fine all-day canoe trip. All the lakes are favorite resorts of fishermen for bass, perch, chub, and pickerel are very plentiful. The beauty of the surrounding country makes tramping a pleasure, and the well-packed country roads are fine for bicycling and horseback riding. The lake is large enough to make the conditions, what's next? Ideal for all kinds of swell boats. The bathing also is a feature, for the days grow very warm at noontime and make a good swim feel fine. He goes on. These camps are run by Mrs. Millard Gleason, North Belgrade, Maine. The price for the room and meals is $12 a week. All necessities are furnished, including blankets. The transportation, including baggage, berth, train ticket, breakfast, ride to the lake, costs about $25 round trip. At Snug Harbor camps, a doctor can always be quickly summoned from the boys' camp, which is only a mile away. This is all this brochure he's writing to get his friend to come up. The brochure was made with folded paper and bound with twine. The back cover logo for Belgrade, Maine Lakes. Belgrade Lakes, Maine, sorry. Freddie did join the Whites that summer, and he and Elwyn spent their days fishing, canoeing, and swimming. Much too soon, Elwyn knew it would be time to go back to school, but he also knew that when he returned the next summer, the lake would be exactly as he had left it. Oh my gosh. I think I'll do one more chapter. If you need to leave, I understand, but I'm going to do one more, and then I'll have 3 chapters in. The Years of Wonder. I took to writing early to assuage my uneasiness and collect my thoughts. And I was a busy writer long before I went into long pants. One by one, N's brothers and sisters left their home in New York. Alan Stan graduated from Cornell University. Lillian attended Vassar College, and his other sisters married and had children. At 5 years old, N was already an uncle. Elwin could canoe, ice skate, play Aida on the piano, and ride his bike backwards while sitting on the handlebars, but girls terrified him. He also liked to write poems, stories, and letters to his siblings, sometimes signing his letter Sir Elwin White or Buttercup. When he was 9, N sent a poem to Albert, his brother at Cornell, and a few months later, N submitted it to Women's Home Companion Contest and won his first literary prize. A Story of a Little Mouse by Elwin White. Once there was a wise little mouse. At least that's what he thought. But his experience shows you just what his wisdom brought. One day he walked through the kitchen. A wire box he spied, and in it was a hunk of cheese, which he very carefully eyed. Then he decided he'd have some, so in the box he stepped. Farther and farther and farther, very cautiously he crept. But all of a sudden the trap sprang and cut right off his head, for the cruel trap had been laid for him, and there he lay, quite dead. As a lesson for a little mouse, I certainly advise that mice had better be careful and try not to be too wise. He began sending his stories to St. Nicholas, a monthly magazine for young readers. What does he say? In this letter written in 1908, N told Albert, I wrote a poem about a little mouse. I'm sorry I wrote that poem because I am trying to catch a mouse, and that won't encourage them, will it? He began sending his stories to St. Nicholas, a monthly magazine for young readers. One of the magazine's most popular features was the St. Nicholas League contests, held for the best stories, essays, poems, drawings, and snapshots and puzzles. If a piece was published, the artist would win a gold or silver badge. Anyone could win a badge. Anyone could join the league. Other budding writers, Edna St. Vincent Millay, William Faulkner, Eudora Welty, and Rachel Carson were members. Later described the league members as an industrious and fiendishly competitive band of tots. Can you believe it? Edna St. Vincent Millay, William Faulkner, Eudora Welty, and Rachel Carson. Oh my gosh. And there is Triple Play, September Twin. That's the St. Nicholas magazine. A neighborhood friend, E. Barrett Brady, pointed out that the stories that won prizes were often about being kind to animals. All his life, N had been kind to animals, and he tended to pigeons, dogs, snakes, pollywogs, turtles, rabbits, lizards, singing birds, chameleons, caterpillars, and mice. So it wasn't hard for him to write a story about animals. When he wrote A Winter Walk about a dog and a woodland animals, it won a silver badge from St. Nicholas. A few years later, a true dog story about his dog Beppo won the coveted gold medal. Here's the true dog story. He is a large Irish setter with a beautiful red coat and a lovable disposition. One summer when we were in Maine, Father and my 2 brothers went for a walk, taking Beppo, the dog, with them. Coming to what seemed to be a large pasture slope, they climbed over the stone wall and walked up the hill. Just as they reached the summit, so they could see beyond, they were confronted by a large herd of steers. On seeing them, the animals advanced menacingly. The trio started back to the wall with Beppo in leash, but found to their horror that the steers were chasing them. It would be impossible to reach the wall by running. There seemed to be but one way, the dog. On the farm, Beppo had been taught to bring the cows by going around the back of them and chasing them on. The folks realized that if he did that now, it would be fatal, and yet they must act quickly, for the big animals were rapidly coming upon them. Again, they looked at the wall. It seemed a quarter of a mile away. There was but one thing to do. Setting the dog loose, my brother called, "Hold 'em, Bep, hold 'em." And simultaneously the dog bounded toward the herd, and the three made for the wall. For about 200 yards they ran as they had never run before. Then, looking over their shoulders, they saw the whole herd standing on the brow of the hill, with a little ball of red racing madly up and down in front of them. In a minute, the little party was safely over the wall, and Beppo the hero came barking down the hill. In high school, N began writing for the Oracle, his school newspaper. Oh, I know what this was first off. So there is also a word puzzle here that he has, and apparently there is an answer to it in the right above, turn to the index. I didn't check that out. Oops. In high school, N began writing for the Oracle, his school newspaper. But the best part of high school, he said, was getting to and fro, which was on my bicycle. Girls may have noticed him, but he didn't have the nerve to ask them out. And was still in high school when World War I broke out. He had his heart set on going to Cornell University just like his brothers, and was accepted and awarded scholarships that more than covered the $100 a year tuition. $100 a year. Still in 1917, the summer before Elwin went to college, he wrote in his journal, May 27th, "I don't know what to do this summer. The country is at war, and I think I ought to serve." July 5th, "My utter dependence galls me, and I'm living the life of a slacker." But N didn't weigh enough to join the army. Finally, he joined the cadets and worked on a farm for the summer. Even though he was about to leave for Cornell in the fall, his journal entry on his birthday was no more enthusiastic. July 11th, 18 and still no future. I'd be more contented in prison, for at least I would know precisely what I had to look forward to. I didn't care for athletics, being skinny and small, but I liked ice ponds and skating. And on winter afternoons and evenings, I would visit a pond, a 15-minute ride on a trolley car, and skate with a girl named Mildred Hesse. Together, we must have covered hundreds of miles, sometimes leaving the pond proper and gliding into the woods on narrow fingers of ice. We didn't talk much, never embraced. We just skated for the ecstasy of skating, a magical glide. This brief interlude on ice had a dreamlike quality, a purity that has stayed with me all my life. And when nowadays I see a winter sky and feel the wind dropping with the sun and the naked trees against the reddening west, I remember what it was like to be in love before any of love's complexities or realities or disturbances had entered in, to dilute its splendor and challenge its perfection. Letters of E.B. White in 1976. And there she has them skating. Elwin arrived at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, a few days before classes started, and he checked into a hotel to wait. And in his enthusiasm, he became so engrossed in what he was going on in town, the trolleys, the walking paths, the Lake Cayuga, that days went by before he realized classes had already begun. Elwin liked Cornell. His classmates nicknamed him Andy, after Cornell's first president, Andrew Dixon White. And from then on, to friends and family, Elwin White was Andy White. His professors became part of his social life. Students met at Professor Adams' house for cocoa and chess. Andy joined Professor Sampson's manuscript club. From Professor Strunk, he learned to omit needless words in his writing, and he fell in love with Henry David Thoreau's Walden. Andy began writing for the school newspaper, the Cornell Sun, which he found much more interesting than studying. He got a D in English in his second semester. When he became the editor of the Sun, it took so much of his time he was excused from his English class. He wrote his mother, This morning came news of my utter redemption from my deepest gloom, which is merely to say I don't have to write so much stuff every day. And he wrote later in 1980, he said, I'll send my son to Cornell because Will Strunk Jr. is there. I'd send him there to walk up 6 Mile Creek in the early wetness of a recalcitrant spring. Professor William Strunk Jr. taught English from a book he wrote, The Elements of Style. One year, Andy took a class in medieval history. The professor, George Lincoln Burr, taught in such a way that Andy was transported back centuries. He learned that when tyrants reign, societies sacrifice freedom. In Andy's senior year, it was Burr who stood up for a Cornell student who was being bullied into wearing a freshman cap, a tradition upperclassmen had come up with for all freshmen. Let's see if I can get my pages up. There. Here's the cap. The student had refused to wear it, and the campus was in an uproar, but Burr observed, a matter of garb seems to me a small thing to fight about. What chance for discussion? What room for protest? There is no safety valve so precious to civil order as legitimate freedom of thought and speech. Andy said that meeting Burr was the single greatest thing that ever happened in his life. Burr introduced Andy to a part of himself he had not yet discovered. Andy saw with blinding clarity how important it was to live with the freedom to express ideas, to be free. Andy wrote later, is to feel you belong to the earth. For the first time, Andy had a focus for his thoughts, for his principles. He began to consider writing for a living. After graduation, Andy took a job as a counselor at Camp Otter in Canada. A classmate from Cornell, Howard Cushman, went too. Neither wanted to rush into a job in an office, and maybe they would go out west for a while. What was the hurry to have a regular job? And I'll stop there because it's hilarious what they do next. And I think what I'll do to read it again is I'll grab my old iPad and see if I can bring the book up so that you can look at the pictures more than having to see the typed text. Yay! He looked like alfalfa in that pic. I know some of them. This one where his buddies are with him. He's the third from the right in this one right here with the mustache. We're there at Camp Otter in Ontario in 1921. Pretty amazing. All right. So that's where we are. We'll leave off on that one at the beginning of chapter 4. And I'll come back to it on Sunday with some more and some shenanigans on Sunday too. And I'll have it wholly set out in a little better way. Yeah, I hope you guys like that and enjoy it. It's just something a little different and a little different approach. But Melissa Sweet does such a cool way of taking that collage and almost junk journal style and bringing in his parts, elements, and the pictures that he had from his whole history and just making it into such a cool way to illustrate his life. I just wanted to share it with you. It's really wonderful. Anyway, you guys, everybody's having a good time. I'm so intrigued the way it's going to go. No. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Lupe. Yeah. Hi, Fatima. Because I was talking to the geese on campus. You were talking to the geese on campus. That's a good idea. Yeah, we've had several of the geese have been flying over. I'm glad you love the books. That's great. So we'll be back on Sunday with Sunday shenanigans and send in your artwork. I've been painting up a store. I have homework from my watercolor class, and I'm working on the presentation. I know, and so that's, I'll tell you Sunday how it's coming along. I'm hoping to have it done by Sunday so that I don't have to worry about it. And I have that interview tomorrow, but yeah. So everybody, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoy sharing this with you. E.B. White has always been one of my very favorite. I remember I have a copy of Stuart Little that I've had since I was young. And Sarah has her copy of Charlotte's Web. So it's always... And Trumpet of the Swan is just one of his lesser read books, but it's still absolutely one of really beautiful. Anyway, everybody, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And Bonnie, it was great to have you here. Fatima, Tamara, Linda, Larry, Julia, Brown, and Gail, if you're lurking in the back, we miss you. Take care. And everybody, until next time, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around you. You know where you'll find it first, though. Just go look in the mirror. And I'll see you next time.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Feeling alright, we won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side.
Lunchtime. I just had dinner.
We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous.
Thanks, Larry.
Ooh, you got me feeling starstruck too. We could be famous. We could be famous.
Thanks, guys.
You blow my mind, looking like a model, better than the usual. Yeah, you don't even try, not average or typical. I put you on a pedestal. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless, famous,
Thank you.
running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous, wow. Ooh, you got me feeling starstruck too. We could be famous. We could be famous. We could be famous.
Oh, I had a steak salad, leftover steak from the other night. Dance time.
We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous.
Night, everybody.